Okay, if you've been following Elon Musk companies closely, you know that Neuralink is one of his 1,000 companies, and this chip and people's brains allow that person to control a computer just using their brain, just using their thoughts, their intent. And Neuralink just announced that they're going to have a new chip that's going to allow people to see again. It's going to restore vision in the same way that the Neuralink they have installed in the first patient, Nolan Arbaugh, who was on my channel a couple months ago. This chip is going to help people with blindness or with issues seeing. And over time, this company looks to fix a bunch of stuff, dementia, Alzheimer's. It's going to allow you to connect to the freaking internet with your brain and have infinite knowledge. It's kind of insane, honestly. It's completely ridiculous. But what's even more interesting and something that I don't see talked about is the research that this chip is going to allow for us to understand the human brain. And this is one of the topics that Nolan and I talked about a couple months ago on my podcast. I want to highlight this clip from that conversation because I know a lot of you missed it. This company is not just going to try to cure vision and Alzheimer's and dementia and connect us to a freaking AI brain or whatever, but it's also opening up a brand new field of research about the human brain and really understanding how the human brain works. We barely know what this thing is doing half the time, and now with Neuralink, we're going to be able to learn so much more. So here's the highlight from that conversation.
What I didn't appreciate up until this point, Nolan, is like just the level of insight you guys are gathering into how the brain works that we didn't previously understand by way of having a combination of enough threads in the brain, having a model, and somebody like you that's able to communicate exactly what's happening. Like that is opening up a whole world of data that I'm having so much fun right now.
One thing that they constantly talked about at the beginning more so was just how excited they were to finally have this in a person. I'm like, yeah, guys, like I'm excited too. It's really cool. And they're like, no, like you don't understand. We've been working with monkeys for years, and it's really hard when a monkey is doing something on the screen and you're asking a monkey to complete a task. It's really hard to know if they're doing what you want them to do. Like you can tell if a cursor goes from point A to point B that, okay, they are intending that to happen. But if you want them to go from point A to point B and they go in a completely different direction or the cursor doesn't move, you don't know if it is the algorithm freaking out or if it's the monkey like losing focus or anything like that. You don't know like what's going on. You don't know because there's no feedback from the monkey. There's no conversation going on. And it's something that I've really come to appreciate about this whole process is that having someone who can vocalize what's going on is invaluable. And being able to explain to them the things that like I'm experiencing and feeling, it's really, really amazing for the technology and for the field. And getting this into people is just so important. I'm lucky, I think, that I'm able to at least conceptualize and explain things in a way that I feel like people are able to understand. And I've been really blessed with that, like being able to communicate with people in a way that I feel like really brings people to like eye level. And I've felt like Neuralink has really benefited from that as well, as much as I have from all of the whole study and everything. But it's just been so nice to have that level of communication and to be able to show them like exactly what is going on with me. It's something that I've been trying for 8 years to explain to people, the fact that I can still feel my hand. I can still feel the fact that I'm trying to move, and I can feel all of my fingers wiggling at any point. And people will be like, okay, like phantom pain, phantom limbs, like we get it, but you're not actually doing anything. It's, yeah, I know I'm not, but I can feel it all. And then to see that visually on a screen with like my neurons firing in real time, it's so validating. And then to be able to show them like, this is exactly what I'm feeling. And this is why the model is behaving this way. And I believe that this part of my body is resulting in this part of the algorithm being confused. It's so interesting. And the amount of data that we're collecting, I don't think they'll be able to analyze it in the next few years, maybe not ever in our lifetime with the amount of people that are working at Neuralink right now. They need to grow by 10 times as much in order to start analyzing like all of the data that we've collected. I've already made them revamp their whole system like 3 or 4 times because the amount of data that I've collected has just broken all of their like databases, whatever their like how robust their system is. They just don't have enough. I don't know. They're just not. Yeah, they
can't keep up with the flood of data and just the results. I think that's the as impressive as this whole thing has been, Nolan, it still feels like it's massively underappreciated for exactly the reason that you described. It's so esoteric, right? It's not something that I think most of the public, as soon as you say machine learning, most people are like, I'm done. And it's not like they're dumb. It's just like they're busy. Like they only got time to figure out what the hell machine learning is or a model. But it's like the fact that you're able to gather so much data around how the brain behaves and be able to validate so much of what you were feeling, but weren't able to tie to data, right? It just really shows how early we are in studying the brain. Still now.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy. It's like 2024, we seem to know so much about the most mundane stuff, but when it comes to what arguably could be the most important, like the thing that separates us from every other species that's ever existed on this planet, it seems like, we still know almost nothing. And bro, like you are leading it. What the hell? How's that feel?
Yeah, I don't think much about it. I'm really excited. No, I'm really excited because in my mind, I feel the same way. I'm like, why isn't this gaining more traction? Why aren't people more like pumped up about this? Because the amount that we're going to learn about the brain from, I know this is all like in the tech field. People talk about this in regards to like Elon Musk and the AI and all their future capabilities and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But in my mind, I'm like, guys, the amount that we're going to learn about the brain from this, it could change like how we interact with the brain, what we do in like the medical field. It could change like everything about what we understand about ourselves even. And so it's so exciting to me. And I just love being a part of it. I feel like I'm just giddy being a part of it all the time. I'm like, I'm just so like the fact that I even got selected was just bizarre. So in my mind, I was like, I'm just trying to enjoy the ride, but it's not, I don't know. It's just really cool. It's really cool to be a part of.
So what are the discussions like inside about conditions like Alzheimer's or dementia or some of those things? 'Cause that's the amount of insight that this process is going to generate on not only physical disabilities, but like mental illnesses is going to be like game changing for neuroscience and psychology and psychiatry and like all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I know that there are ways in which implanting these threads into people's brain can physically alter like even some of, I don't know about the chemistry, but how the brain works in certain ways. There are already implants to help prevent like seizures and stuff in people's brains. There are already ways that they are implementing these things to help people with different disabilities. And I've heard that Alzheimer's is something that even Elon Musk has talked about one day being able to cure and solve. And I think that, like I've said, just understanding the brain more is only the first step to that. I don't know exactly like how it works. I know that even someone like Joe Rogan has talked about being able to implant threads into someone's brain and then flip a switch and experience different, I don't know, drug highs or something. That's obviously where he would go with something like this, but different ways in which it can interact with the brain. And if you're feeling like depressed, you push a button on your phone and the Neuralink like activates a little part of your brain that makes you a bit happier or something. Like there are different ways to interact with the brain that I think we're barely scratching the surface of. I don't really know much about like Alzheimer's or dementia in order like what it actually does to the brain physiologically or anything. So I'm not sure how the Neuralink would help that specifically, but I know that it's in the works. I know that it's possible. I guess I hope that it's possible. I know, like I said, I've seen behind the curtain with some of this stuff, and it seems like we're just now getting a handle on some of the most basic things about the brain that I'm surprised we don't know about.
So coming back to your implant and the 15% of the threads that you have left, have they told you what they think the upper limit of what you're going to be capable is? Or is that something that you guys just have to discover together? Or
Yeah. I think it's a learning experience for all of us. I don't know that we fully understand like what I'm capable of at this point. A lot of what I've been doing for the last, month and a half, 2 months maybe, has been trying to improve the UI for the people that come after me. So make the processes that I have gone through for the last 4 months, much simpler, much easier, much more accessible, much more intuitive to the people that come after me. So at the very beginning, it was a lot of explorative. What am I capable of doing? Can I do X, Y, or Z with the Neuralink? And now it's a lot more of, okay, now that we know I'm capable of these things, let's fine tune them to the point where the next people that come after you will have a much easier time learning and getting a grasp on things. I think once they get more people in the study, maybe that'll change, or maybe that'll just be my role from now on, is to just help them really like fine tune all of these things. They're still working on like different things here and there, but the team that I work with, they're spread pretty thin to the point where like they can't work on 10 different things that I might be capable of. So like I said, we were doing like the finger spelling part of all of this. And I think there was one guy working on that at one point, and that's just not enough. We were doing like Mario Kart at the very beginning. And then I had 2 people come out to my house like maybe a month and a half ago and worked on it for a couple of days. And that's about the extent of being able to connect to a Nintendo Switch instead of just a computer. We haven't even touched on things like switching to a phone or anything like that. There are a lot of capabilities that I think we are not even like diving into yet. And maybe they'll do that with the next people, but I don't think it's limited by the amount of threads that I have in my brain. I don't think it's limited by the electrodes or anything. What we found basically is that even with the loss of threads and electrodes in my brain, I was still able to surpass like my previous records by almost like 2 full like BPS at this point on the WebGrid. And so it's getting back to some of the stuff that we were doing before. But right now I think they're really trying to get participant 2 in, and they're really trying to make it so when the second participant comes in, their like transition is very smooth. So that's basically what I work on all the time.